This episode of podcast is brought to you by rubbing alcohol into a bullet wound to stop the pain, but then you remember you're in the 4th grade play. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The World of Credits, the podcast, the only podcast that had the rise, the fall, and then the rise again. I'm Zach.
And I'm Frank.
And today we are here to do our first of the topic of what the hell happened to Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser, what a man. I think he kind of sits a little bit more with like our age group because it's like we remember him so fondly in like the 90s and like the early 2000s. And then I think for a lot of us, like he just kind of like disappeared. And for years, like nobody really knew like what happened to him. And then now he's getting kind of like this resurgence. And I feel like it's important to talk about like that where it's like he kind of like vanished off the face of the earth, and now like again he's getting like this kind of like renaissance of himself again. So
would you call it a renaissance?
A renaissance? Ooh, did you steal that from something?
Yeah, that's what they've been saying over the everybody, because he's winning so many awards for The Whale over at like the Golden Globes and stuff, and they're just like, it's a renaissance.
I love
like,
that.
It's pretty cool.
That's wonderful. They should always be telling him that.
Yeah.
So I don't know like how you kind of like how you kind of like took notes for this thing. I kind of like broke it down into like 3 separate parts basically of like what happened to him.
Okay.
Basically like we started like I wanted to start it off like again like talking about like the late 90s, early 200s, like
early 200s.
Yes. He's been around for
BC
so long.
or AD? What do we?
Oh, both. He's been around forever. Early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s, like he was kind of like the guy.
He was.
And
he was what we don't really have anymore, which is like a proper leading man.
Yes.
Like Brendan Fraser was, and obviously not really so much anymore these days, but he's kind of like the last of a dying breed.
Yeah.
Which was like he was a literal proper leading man.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of I kind of considered him to be in that same I basically consider him to be similar to like what John Travolta had going on.
Yeah, like when he was younger, like the Grease and like the Pulp Fiction type.
Well, not Pulp Fiction, because everything prior to Pulp Fiction for years and years and years was like garbage for him. But more or less, like Travolta was the guy for a very, very long time. And then he started making some not so successful films, and then some things happened to him in his personal life, and he kind of just got blacklisted as like not really the guy anymore, and he was just making like crappy movies, right? But the thing that I think, I mean, a lot of that aligns with Brendan Fraser as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think really kind of was like, okay, yeah, you guys are almost one and the same, was how Travolta back in like the 90s, while not beloved in Hollywood, was really beloved by like the people.
Yes.
Right? Travolta would go out and go to a restaurant and people would be like screaming at him. Like, and this was like in the height of the worst era of Travolta in Hollywood, where he was making not a lot of movies and nobody really wanted to make him the leading man of anything really worth anything. And he would be walking down the street though to go to a restaurant, and people would be like shouting out their windows from their cars, and people would come up to the table and say, you know, like, Travolta, Johnny, you know, all these things like, we love you, we love you. So like the people loved him, but Hollywood just like couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And I think that was very similar to what happened with Brendan, where it's like the leading man for so many years, The Mummy, right? Like these classic movies that for our generation has just been like, you know, these are like staple films.
Yeah.
And when Brendan Fraser would go out places, everybody loves him. Everybody loves him in like in the real world.
Yeah.
But Hollywood was just like, no.
And that's the thing too, because like if you watch like any interview with Brendan Fraser, like he is such a nice guy. Like he is so like thankful for like everybody that like has ever supported him. And it's like, for me, like I fondly remember like biggest two things was like him in George of the Jungle, and of course the Mummy. Like the Mummy franchise, like would not have been anything without him. Like he was just really, really good in those films.
He's great.
And it showed that, like, he was the leading man, and like it's important that, like, like any role that he took on, like being the leading man, like he made the best of it. But like he also showed, like, in this period of time where it's like in the 90s it was all like action films.
Yeah.
And like to have him be in The Mummy and be like, yes, it's an action film, but he's also playing this very strategical, like showcasing like artifacts and like actually like trying to like defeat like supernatural elements. It's like he brought like something slightly different to the table with those films than like most like action heroes during the time of, like, you think of like anything that like Bruce Willis and like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger were doing, where it's like it's just literally going and shooting and then being done with it.
Yeah.
Like Brendan Fraser did like something a little bit differently.
Well, I mean, yes, but you also, like, granted, though that was the character that he was playing.
Exactly.
So like it was written that way. So like I don't know if I would necessarily like give all the credit to him for that, because he's playing like that's what the movie was. So anybody who got that role would have necessarily been, it would have been the same thing. But what I think the real point is that Brendan Fraser was actually like a really good actor.
Yeah, like he had the charisma for it,
and he had like the physicality. He had everything that you could really want. Like he was very good looking.
Yes.
Right? Like super
Handsome.
super good looking. Good, like great body on him. And on top of that, he had really, really great, like you said, charisma. Like he had that physicality that not a lot of actors had. Like he's very much a comedic actor almost first.
Yeah.
Because those are the roles that he was given, right? Like he was doing all of these kind of like slapsticky type of things, like his facial expressions and the way that he would move his body in The Mummy, and all of these things are like, it's such a physical thing.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that when he was studying acting, he was really he was probably studying like Chaplin and like things like that, where guys like that, where it's very physical first. But on top of that, you go back and you watch things like Encino Man, or things like movies where he was much younger and he was really trying to be a much more like serious kind of actor, or like Crash, and he actually is delivering like really good performances, like proper performances.
So that was the thing too, because like I'd never seen Crash, but I heard like that was like one of those like the films like more towards like the end of the 90s, where it's like that was like a solid like serious performance by him.
Yeah, it was great. You never seen Crash?
Nope.
You should watch Crash. Crash got a lot of awards. Everybody kind of like now it's kind of like, I don't know if it was really as good as I remember it, but Brendan Fraser in that movie is very good.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, what happened then too was that it kind of came to like my first point of like the box office bombs.
Yeah, he made some bad movies.
Yeah, so it sucks too, because it's like right around the same time of like The Mummy being released, which I think was like 1998. I think it came out, the first one.
I don't
remember. But like 1999 was like kind of like the start of like downhill. Like he did a movie called like Deadly Do Right, which like
Dudley Do Right, yeah,
like him being a Mountie. And
yeah,
like, that was very slapsticky.
Yeah, very like physical comedy.
Yes.
And him and I don't remember who his leading lady was in that, but all I remember watching that movie, and they had like it's literally like slapstick comedy, like stepping on a plank of wood and coming up and smacking them in the face type of stuff.
And then the other plank of wood hitting her, and then she falls into his lap.
It's very much like just like it wasn't very good.
Yeah, and then that movie definitely was a box office bomb, because like I think it was the budget for the film was like 70 million and it made 10 million back.
Yeah,
so it's like,
not
that's
great.
bad.
Yeah.
And then like you got like other films where it's like I didn't remember him in it, but he was in Looney Tunes Strike Back, or Back in Action. Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't know why.
He was like the main guy.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of like a little bit of a flop, and then he did another movie called like Monkey Bone, which was a flop. And then unfortunately around that time was like when Hollywood started to like kind of question him as a leading man, where it's like, can he be Like, he has that look to him, but can he lead the role?
Yeah.
And it was unfortunately just a case of, like, bad movie picks.
It's kind of ironic where it's funny to me that, I mean, and there are elements of Hollywood that, of course, work in this way where you have an actor who is, the name alone is supposed to bring in tickets.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, where they were thinking of, like, oh, he's not like the leading man, but it's also just like, yeah, but it doesn't matter who the leading role man. Like, these movies were shit.
Yes.
Like, it didn't matter who the fuck was like, it could have been anybody, right? Like, it could have been Daniel Day-Lewis. Like,
exactly.
it didn't matter. Like, these movies just weren't good. So, like, it's funny how Hollywood works, where it's like, oh, you've made a few bad movies. The movie he didn't write the movie, he didn't direct the movie, right? So it's like, why is the writers and directors not being outcasted, but the leading man is?
Yeah. Because they're the forefront.
They're the ones who created the idea of the movie.
Yeah. But I think the problem is that, like, they're the ones that are, like, looking to see where it's like, oh, if you're a good actor, you can turn shit into gold. And that's not the case.
No.
Like, you can't do, like...
No.
Same...
I was listening to Bryan Cranston talk about his acting process and how he was like, you know, he's like, a good actor can take, like, maybe B-level material, and I can maybe elevate it to, like, A.
Yeah.
But if it's D level, I'm not going to get it to B A level. Like, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, it doesn't matter who the hell is in the role. If it's not a good role, or if the characters aren't written well, the writing is bad, then it's not going to be good no matter what.
Exactly. And that's the shitty thing, is that, like, he kind of got, like, blamed for it almost.
Yeah.
And then we get to, like, the second part, which is, like, the mental health of Brendan Fraser, like, slowly deteriorating. And I guess there's a full-on interview that you can go and watch on, like, YouTube and anything, like, from 2018 with GQ about, like, everything that basically happened. But I guess, like, back in, like, 2003, there was, like, Philip Burke.
Yeah,
he was like
one of the guys of
HFPA.
Yeah, he's like the ex-president of them, and yeah, there was some sexual assault allegations, basically. And it's weird because, like, you kind of get a little tensed when you hear, like, oh man, like, Brendan Fraser sexual assault, and then you realize that Brendan Fraser was the victim.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh
yeah. Yeah, he was the one that was sexually assaulted, and then he kind of, like, tried to, like, hide it for a little bit, but then that, like, really got to him, and then he tried to, like, out it, and then it got, like, very messy. Basically, like, the guy Philip Burke, like, denied everything, and then from that he kind of got, like shadow blacklisted from Hollywood.
I would say that he probably got blacklisted, and that's kind of, like, why, you know, it's very frustrating, because that's when people be like, oh, if you were sexually assaulted, why don't you just, like, say something?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but, like, these people are, like, he said something, and then all of a sudden, like, he's no longer getting roles, and he's no longer allowed to work. And, you know, plus on top of that, like, I mean, he was going through a lot. Like, his wife divorced him.
Yeah, 2007.
He was going through like, legal battles with his wife.
Yep.
And on top of that, he's got, like, this whole thing going on. His body was, like, falling apart.
Yeah, by, like, what was it? Like, the years of, like, stunt work and everything like that, because he had, like, a little bit of, like, a reprise, like, in, I want to say, like, 2004-ish, 2005-ish. But, like, he literally went on camera and said, like, you know, he's put together with, like, tape and ice, basically.
Yeah.
Like because of, like, all the years of, like, doing, like, those action-esque roles, like, his physical form started to deteriorate.
Yeah. He had to get multiple surgeries. I think his back, his knees, his vocal cords.
Yeah, like, which was
everything.
Crazy. Like, his vocal cords, like, he had to get, like, both knees replaced. He had to have, like, a spinal fusion in his neck.
Yeah, he's, like, the man was just falling apart.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, yeah, and then you're, like, watching his career, and there isn't really much of a career to watch. I mean, he's making, like, these small kind of guest appearances on television shows.
Yeah.
He's got that one role, that robot guy thing.
So, like, I remember, too, like, he was, like, in the show Scrubs. He was, like, the brother. He was in that for, like, a couple of episodes. But that's because, like, that's all he could get, like, in between surgeries, is just, like, these small TV roles.
Yeah.
And that was basically like what it got down to. And then
Did you know that he was? Did you see that he was considered for Superman?
yes, and then they gave it to a different guy named Brendan.
Yeah.
I don't remember what his name was, but
Okay. I mean, that movie was shit anyway.
oh yeah, I mean it would have kind of been like a okay, he's back like in the leading role, but like again, it's another shit movie.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, he dodged a bullet with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, then in like 2013, like it got so bad where it's like he wasn't getting like any roles, and the whole like legal battle with his ex-wife was like really really crazy. Where it's like basically he needed to pay for child support $75,000 a month,
Yeah.
which is insane. And then he was like, I can't like pay this. Like I need a reduction on it.
Yeah.
And they basically were like, man, not really, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And then we get to kind of like that redemption slope. So it was like around that time of like 2015-ish. He started like he was done with surgeries. He was kind of like back on his feet where it's like he could start to act again. He wasn't getting anything like movie really wise, but like you were mentioning, like he started getting into like TV shows.
Yeah.
So like him playing like Robot Man on Doom Patrol, like my brother watches that show and like he would tell me about it, and then he was like, oh yeah, like Brendan Fraser's in it. I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Like he's actually like a character like every single
main
episode.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that was the point where I was like, that's really cool that like he started to kind of like get somewhere again. And that was like the biggest role that I knew him for. I know he also did like another show called like Texas Rising. He did another one called like Trust and another one called like Condor, like all throughout like this time frame of like 2015 to like 2020.
Yeah.
And then of course, biggest one, Darren Aronofsky, casting him as the main role for The Whale film,
Which they filmed 5 minutes from where I live.
Weirdly enough,
Where they filmed it like at a motorcycle museum, literally like down the road from me.
yeah, which is super weird. But
I remember them being there. I remember seeing all of the stuff because I would pass it very often.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see like all the tents and it would say like this way to set and this, all this like stuff. And I'm like, what are they doing in there? Like it was like clearly they're doing like some type of TV or movie or something, but what is it? And then I was listening to Aronofsky's like an interview with him, and he was like, yeah, we were filming in this motorcycle warehouse in Newburgh, New York. And I was like, what? That was the movie that was being made there? It was like insane to me. And it was like peak pandemic, so
yeah.
No Brendan Fraser running around like at like our local stores or anything, I would imagine. But yeah, he was there. It was cool. It's really cool to there's a lot of actually like stuff happening in our area.
Yeah, I know even
filming.
in like Fishkill too, like the Red Line Diner is like used in like multiple movies.
Yeah. There's a lot of like little locations and stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of things popping up in the Hudson Valley of like in TVs and stuff. I think they did. What's that show? What's that? Not Servant. What's that show?
Bachelor? What?
No. It's like a really everybody loves it.
MILF Manor?
Is it Servant? It's the one where I can't think of anybody in the fucking show.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's that show where they go to they like clock into work, and when they clock in, like their brains get like completely wiped out, and like it's like it's just like the work person, and then like when they clock out, they like come back to like who they actually are, but they have like no recollection of what they were doing in work, and like it's a really like everybody loves the show.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know.
But they filmed that like in Beacon, so there's just like a lot of things happening.
Weird.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. So like 2022, like again,
Made The Whale.
Made the Whale. Is currently nominated for multiple awards, including Best Lead Actor for a role for the Oscars. So, I mean, at the time of this recording, like we don't know. Like I think it's in like March that like the Oscars start. My hope and prayer is that he gets it. I still have yet to see The Whale. I really want to. I'm probably gonna try and check it out like this week.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Fraser's performance is like really what elevates it. Truthfully, I was actually a little like the movie affected me differently, I think, than most people because there was just like I related a lot to
being fat.
No, but like the things that there were like some key things that happened in the movie that I was like, this is just like like my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there was an element of that kind of like affected me in a way. I just don't think that the writing is great, unfortunately, for like a lot of it.
Weird, especially from Aronofsky.
Well, it's not. He didn't write it.
Oh no.
No. It's
Oh.
based on a play, and the guy who actually wrote the play is the one who wrote the screenplay. And I felt like the guy who wrote the play. If there was definitely like some things in this movie where it was like very surface level.
Okay.
Like I don't know how many times they said in the fucking movie like that Brendan Fraser's character left his daughter like and he hasn't like spoke to her in like 8 years. And it's like, okay, I've heard this already. And then she's like, you left me 8 years ago, and then you don't talk to me for 8 years. And it's like, okay, I heard that. And then like they get into an argument, right? And then it's like, you left me 8 years ago, and I'm like, all right, we've heard this again. And like it's just like some of that writing was like not great, but overall, the score, everything, it's really good. It's a really good Aronofsky film. I just wish the writing was a little better.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully,
Brendan Fraser's performance is really good.
Hopefully, from this too, like he kind of gets like back in the swing of things. Like even if he goes in kind of like a Nicolas Cage route of like doing like these lead roles, but doing like very like indie style stuff.
Yeah,
I think that would also be like really cool for him. Just because now like he's kind of like back on his feet again. He's getting like that reprise of like, okay, we knew you were the guy in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like you can still be the guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever gonna be at the height of like what he was.
Yes,
but I do think that I'm hoping that there's going to be like some type of renaissance.
Yes,
for his career. There's just he's like the nicest dude in the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And like you listen to his Golden Globe speech, and it's like it just makes you want to fucking cry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like any interview that you watch with him, like he's just a sweetheart of a man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, he's great. And then like, and the thing is too that like when you watch, if you go back and you watch like that Golden Globes, acceptance speech, everybody there, like all of his peers love him.
Yeah,
like you can see that, like everybody is so happy for him.
Yes,
right. Like when he was up there and like having like giving his speech, like everybody was like standing and like clapping for him, and like you could tell that there was like this genuine just love and appreciation for him. And I don't know, it's frustrating that you know that his career took like such a downward spiral, and it's just like a series of bad luck and just things that are just unfortunate. But I mean, I'm excited to like see what he does next.
Yeah.
And like to see like where he's gonna be in the next like 5, 6, 7 years.
Well, that's why like I hope like with this like he gets some of that recognition that he deserves. And yeah, he obviously had like with the Golden Globes and like hopefully again like with the Oscars where it's like people really recognize him for like what he can do and what he has done. So
yeah.
All I want for Christmas is Brendan Fraser to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's what the hell happened to Brendan Fraser.
You have a recommendation?
I do have a recommendation. Little weird. Something kind of like similar to like how a couple weeks back like you recommended like your hat.
Oh, okay.
Something that I didn't even realize, but like I wear them constantly. And it is Neff beanies actually. I wanted to recommend Neff beanies.
Okay.
So kind of interesting backstory too with Neff. So it is still like the first like authentic like snowboard / like skateboarding like headwear.
Which you do neither of those.
I used to skateboard a little bit, just a teeny bit. Created by Sean Neff in 2002. Something that I thought was really interesting with like the backstory of it is because like when he was in college, like he was trying to make a name for himself, like building like his own brand, and like he would like create T-shirts and like put the logos of like Neff and everything on it, and like he would try and like sell them and give them out, and like he tried to get like involved because he was like a big surfer, snowboarder, skater like throughout his entire life, and he tried to give them out to some of like the name brand like people, and they were like, oh sorry, like our contracts, because we're under like these different brands, we can't do that. So he kind of had this ingenious thing where it's like he took a look and he was like, nowhere in any of these contracts does it state anything about like headwear. So he took that idea and then he decided like, okay, I'm going to go to Target. I'm going to get a bunch of headbands. I'm going to get a bunch of beanies. I'm going to put my logo on it. And then that's how he kind of got like recognized a little bit, because it's like there was nothing in there stating that you can't wear like a specific headband or headwear. And then like from that, like once he started getting a little recognized, then he started like making his own material for the beanies. And then he's been working with like a crazy amount of people like within like multiple industries. Like, I mean, Snoop Dogg was like his first like big like collaboration, and that got like major success from it. I know he did like something with Kevin Durant too, most recently. And then something that I thought was cool too, like he worked with was it Scarlett Johansson to create beanies for like cancer patients. Besides that too, they're just like really, really comfy. I go through like these phases like every few years where it's like I'll get like a different beanie and then I'll basically like cut my hair like short, and then as I kind of grow my hair back out, like I wear those beanies to grow the beanie out. And then it becomes like just like this perfect fit for my head by the time that I have long hair again. I don't know. I have like a bunch of different colors. I usually tend to like, especially now, like in the fall winter-esque time frame, like I tend to like match them like with what I'm wearing for the day. So they're just a quality beanie that like I have ones that have lasted me like 4 or 5 years. Like nothing's wrong with it. Like not a tear in it.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was like one of those ones where it's like I didn't even realize that like I'm constantly using it because it's just part of like my wardrobe every day.
Right.
So
cool.
Neff beanies.
You have what movie are we doing
Well,
next?
yeah, I was waiting for you to ask. It's kind of weird too. I don't know if you realize we kind of been doing like this very like noir mystery thriller-esque month.
Okay.
Not even realizing it with Under the Silver Lake and then the outfit. So I'm going to keep that going. And this is the one, if I can't win you with this one, then I'm just going to give up on it.
It's fucking anime.
It is anime. We're going to do Perfect Blue. This is, I feel this is going to be the one.
Okay.
Perfect Blue.
Okay.
You're going to like it.
Zach, take us out.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Now, Frank, roll the credits.